question I have is, you've got most of the money going into Singapore. I think I saw 10 billion USD.
Close
in
to
your
it,
slide.
yeah.
Singapore's too small an economy to absorb $10 billion. So where does it go out of Singapore?
Who wants to deal with that? Because that's true. Singapore is very much the gateway to a lot of activities that are elsewhere. My sense is that for various reasons, if you set the deal in Singapore, you've got a really good business environment in which to do it. So then you do your operating company somewhere else, right?
I think one thing, Peng will probably know better, but one thing is, I don't know how that number is pulled, but if it's Singapore established company, a lot of, let's say, Vietnamese company, even though they're a Vietnam company, they set up in Singapore. They don't set up in Vietnam for a lot of legal reasons. And I think Singapore becomes like that hub where just companies are establishing out of that as well. So I think if the number is pulled based on where the company is established, I think it's not just covering Singapore market or Singapore factors.
So then in many respects, it's misinformation, because you really are not seeing where the capital is being deployed. You're merely seeing where somebody has decided to domicile something.
Yeah. It's like everyone's a Delaware company. Delaware has, a gazillion.
How many companies?
Yeah, we do it in Ireland.
Yeah. But was that question really answered though? I mean, of the money that goes into Singapore, where is it going?
So where are the startup activities?
Yeah. Is it going to Indonesia or Vietnam or?
I would say Indonesia has more FDI in tech than Singapore, for sure, by far. Last year, my guesstimate from those numbers is actually about Indonesia had probably something closer to like $4 or $5 billion, and the rest are spread out across the region. This is actually not going to be too hard to find out. Someone should dig into it. It is like 10 companies. It counts for a good chunk of it. So we should be able to go through it.
But you don't have as many mega deals as you do with venture capital in China.
Oh, yeah.
You do have unicorn investing going on. But I think that what I'm seeing is Singapore is the platform, but really it's across the region as to where your connections are, where you see the first business opportunities, determines where you start in the region. But one of the points is you have to grow beyond where you start in order to grow sufficiently to satisfy any investors. So internationalization is definitely in the future of every startup company in the region. Okay, good. Go ahead.
Now my question is, how do you have Western investors in your VC, and what is the process like in terms of de-risking maybe investments in places like Vietnam, where there's a lot of challenges in terms of just people's culture, not adhering to the rule of law, stuff like that. Like, how do you de-risk for your investors?
Okay, there's multiple questions in here. So first of all, one of your challenges, I have a good friend that's raising money for a fund he's from Ghana, but out of Nigeria. But one of the harder aspects of tech investing that I think we didn't quite realize globally is that GDP needs to be at a certain level before the investment is interesting. I think a lot of people found that out in India. A lot of it, India's GDP per capita is about 2,000. Southeast Asia is about double that, 4,000. China was about 4,000 when it took off. It's about 8,000 now. Took off about 10, 12 years ago. So if the economy you're going into has a GDP per capita far less than about 4,000, you're going to have a really tough time building tech VCs a tech business out of it. You can build businesses, using technology, but they're not going to be at a scale that makes sense from a portfolio returns point of view. So I think that's the first thing you need to figure out. Depends on the countries you're targeting, etc. And then the other one is the size, right? If you can't build a business going after, $1, $2, $3 billion total addressable markets, or TAMs as we call them, it's going to be tough to build a VC fund because again the returns won't go down. So I think my friend in Nigeria figured a lot of these problems out. He still managed to get a small fund together to get going. So that's the point to think through as you're raising your VC. Where did we get our LPs? At this point, I think all the LPs around the world are realizing something is going on in Southeast Asia. They're flying over there. I used to be at GSR Ventures, which is one of the top Series A Chinese funds. And I used to be so envious of their fundraising activities. They'll say, 2 months before, we're going to do a fund in 2 months' time. What would you like to put in? And then they'll say 2 months later, yep, we're doing it. And 2 months later, yep, we're done. And that's how they raise, $300 million. Right? I wish I could do that. So when I talked to the LPs at that point, 3-5 years ago, about investing in Southeast Asia, they go, what do you mean Southeast Asia tech? Right? There's no such thing. Right? And now, instead of saying that, they're flying over. They're looking at what's going on. And it's because there are huge deals going on in Southeast Asia. So you are on the bleeding edge. Right? Go ahead.
So not exactly, because with regard to the African story, from an economic perspective, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that technologies like EdTech and FinTech are really huge. Simply because, there's a lot of numbers coming in from recent developments in PSD2, I think it is.
Yeah, I think that this is a good point. And to keep the focus on Southeast Asia, can I ask you to talk about the question about de-risking?
De-risking.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that a lot of people here are concerned about.
Yes, that was risk is one of the areas that was mentioned when we first were raising funds, and the fact of the matter is the good and the bad about Southeast Asia is you cannot be in just one country, right? And you cannot be in just one country. So almost by the nature of the Southeast Asian fund, you are diversified, right? Geographically, risk-wise. If a hiccup happens in Indonesia, and that's 44% of GDP, right? At worst, half your business, unless you're obviously not diversified across, half your business is affected at worst, right? And it's hopefully not going to go to zero. So from the economic fluctuations point of view, you get a somewhat diversified portfolio. The other piece of risk is the sort of non-compliance kind of risk, right? People doing bad things and all that. And if you do business in emerging markets, you're gonna have to deal with this. You know how to do this in Africa. You have to deal with it in China and Southeast Asia. You just need to put in your policies and your checks and balances, whistleblower capability, etc. Good news is, I think, over the last few decades, we've figured out a whole bunch of things that we can do. Business schools should teach you best practices and all this stuff. So,
Helen, please.
So I will turn the question around a little bit, is that Now, there is no investment that's not investable as long as you know what the risk tolerance is, right? So there's as much as you can de-risk. Going into emerging market is risky. So it's really what's the risk tolerance level that we first have to look at, and then diversification is the other, right? So, that's I think that's something.
Okay. A question down front. Two questions down front. You first.
Thank you, Richard. So my question is for Peng, and you see a lot of Southeast Asia. And one country that's always been a head scratch for me is the Philippines. And it's a country that has a large segment of the population that's English speaking. They, per your comment about, per capita GDP, it's actually a fairly large middle class there. And it's a country that can't seem to get out of its own way. What's your sense of the Philippines?
Actually, we can you first.
I've been going there at least once a quarter for the last 4 years. So I'm on the investment board there, so I know it somewhat. Let's put it this way. I think I mentioned this to a few people earlier. There is a minimum size for which a country can organically build a tech ecosystem. And I think that minimum size is somewhere around Indonesia. Right? I think Philippines is a bit small for that to happen. Indonesia, the government went rah-rah a lot, but almost nothing to cause.
Singapore's smaller than that.
Yeah, but the Singapore government did something, right, around tech. And the interesting thing is the Thai government did something starting last year. They put aside about $500 billion, but the banks and all those guys put another $500 million. So Thailand is actually pretty interesting now, right, because there was capital pumped in. I just heard there might be a bill that's going through in the Philippines with money attached to it. Maybe that will start happening, in the Philippines.
So we do programs about entrepreneurship across Asia every year at Stanford, and we feature the Philippines a number of times. And what you find that even in a difficult environment, there are always people with good ideas, and there are things that are picking up. You also find a labor force that is surprisingly technically literate, and that's something that a lot of people here are not prepared for. And in fact, I'd say that really kind of across the region.
I think you might have just hit on the point I forgot to mention. I think one of Philippines' strengths and weaknesses is that it's English literate, right? So all the top people there can go anywhere, right? So they're in the global market.
So they do.
A lot of them do. Yeah. But there's a sense of, from my Filipino friends, we need to build this up. Right? So there are people returning algo if you There's a whole bunch of them that are trying to get things going there. It's hard.